What's up, guys, and welcome back to Daddy Dimes Radio. Today we have the ultimate fantasy football episode for you guys here, um, and I'll get started in just a minute. Last episode, which has been a very long time ago, but we, um, I streamed my fantasy football draft. Now we're actually not going to be going over that one. We're going to be going over my two main leagues I have this year, both snake drafts. We're going to go over some of the moves that I've made in the past couple days, um, how I've been doing in these first 2 weeks in those leagues, and then also my start, sits, boom and bust, that type of stuff for week 3 coming up, which starts tomorrow with Thursday Night Football, with the 49ers taking on the Giants. Speaking of that, obviously, we have not streamed since the NFL season or college football season began. Look for that to come in the next week. This is the ultimate fantasy football episode. Next will be the ultimate football episode. We'll be talking all football. Here in the future, this channel, I think we're trying to change things up where instead of kind of going over all the sports at once for a longer stream, we might do some shorter videos, which we'll focus on one sport and one topic at a time. For the time being, that would definitely be football until basketball gets started, possibly baseball once those playoffs get started as well. But right now, with NFL and college football going on and being quite the show, um, we're going to be focusing on that for a little while. And I don't know if I've ever explained, but we actually stream all our podcasts, even though we intend for them to be regular videos, because this software that we use, Restream, which I'd highly recommend, it's a great, easy beginner software that we've now been using for almost 2 years for our podcast on this channel. But unfortunately, you do have to pay to get the recording option. But with the free version, you can stream to um, all sorts of destinations. We only do YouTube right now, but you can also do Twitch and many other streaming platforms and video platforms. Speaking of that, you cannot go to Spotify or Apple Podcast from Restream because it is designed more for videos, I think, than podcasts. In the future, we are trying to, obviously, you can't see when we screen share and stuff like I'm about to do in just a minute to show my fantasy football team. But we're trying to find a way to get on Spotify and Apple Music for a quicker on the go way to simply listen to the audio. Anyways, that's enough of that. Let's get into the actual fantasy football. Starting with my first main league here. This is a 10-man snake draft league. As you can see, I kind of got cooked last week, but I started off with a win against who was projected to be the number one guy in our league on draft day. So starting off 1-1, and the guy I lost to, he actually came in as the second on draft day. Actually, real quick, I do want to see how much I moved up in the projections because I believe I was number 10. And as you can see, these are all the waiver wire moves I've been making, which we'll go over in just a minute. But league projections, as you can see, I'm currently in third, and I was 10th on draft day. So moving up quite a bit. And this week, we're playing, I think, who is now the projected to be second. He had another weaker draft day team. But now this is going to be another tough matchup, possibly playing the 3 best guys in the league week 1 here. But as you can see, he with some questionable, obviously Austin Eckler, Jalen Waddle, and Amari Cooper, all questionable. His projected total going to be a little bit lower right now. But let's head to my team. This league, I made so many waiver wire pickups. We'll start with this trade that I suggested yesterday, I believe, with obviously Aaron Rodgers out for the season, and I don't see the Jets picking up another QB. And honestly, I believe that Zach Wilson will never be a. Oh, sure, I forgot to share my screen. Well, let's go ahead. Hold on. There we go. All right. Anyways, now you can see. That's my bad. I completely forgot to do what I was actually doing. But real quick, let me just As you can see, I got blown out last week, 1-1 record there. And then here's my projections right here, 10th to 3rd. As you can see here, trended up 7. And then the guy who I lost last week has now trended up to the number 1 spot after starting number 2. And then this week, moving up 6 spots from number 8 to number 2 is my opponent for this week, who, like I said, I'll show you guys this matchup. Has lots of injury issues right now that he just hasn't taken care of in his lineup with Austin Eckler, Jalen Waddle, and Amari Cooper. But he is undefeated at 2-0 right now. And like I said, I think these 3 guys that I've played in the first 3 weeks, or that I'm about to play, are the 3 best in the league. Possibly with me in that mix, I think we're all pretty close. But here's the trade I was talking about with Aaron Rodgers out and Zach Wilson. As I was saying with the Jets QB situation, I am trading away Garrett Wilson. Obviously, I think for almost all leagues, Garrett Wilson is still a wide receiver 2 or flex option that you must start. And my current quarterback is Tua, but I think Patrick Mahomes is still going to be the best quarterback in fantasy football this year, even with the receiver issues. I think that's enough of an upgrade where you'll see my wide receiver room in a minute. I am putting some faith in Puka Nacua, as you'll see, to continue this sort of production once Cooper Kupp is back. But Cooper Kupp's always going to have injury problems. Who knows? He could get injured again. But as you can see, this trade, I'm trying to bring in Patrick Mahomes to send away Garrett Wilson because I think my wide receiver room is good enough where I don't necessarily need Garrett without Aaron Rodgers. I'm seeing if I can pick up Patrick Mahomes there. But let's start with the waiver wire I made last week after that week 1 performance. I went ahead, picked up Puka Nacua, who obviously everybody already knows about, so I won't talk too much about him. But I will say I did actually keep him on the bench last week. I had Garrett Wilson in last week, and I was debating between Debo or Puka Nacua. And obviously Debo actually played the best out of him, Garrett Wilson, and then my other receiver, Chris Olave, putting up a tremendous 22 points. Then obviously Puka had his 30, so it would have been better to play him and would have been much better to play him over Chris Olave or Garrett Wilson. So that was my waiver wire pickup last week. Now this week I've gone ahead and I made some more pickups. I picked up Kyren Williams, Puka's teammate, who I think will be more consistent down the road once they trade away Cam Akers. Clear running back 1 in my opinion right now. And that was my weakness, was at running back. Although I do have Jonathan Taylor on the IR, I picked him up, and I think like the 7th round of this draft. And I think, I might not been sharing my screen this whole time either. Oh my goodness. Oh, anyways, you'll just hear my voice, I think. But I do have Jonathan Taylor on my IR. Picked him up in the 7th round, so he can slide in. Probably if Kyren Williams continues this production, obviously I have Christian McCaffrey. Probably will slide into that flex spot. Really, this team with my waiver pickups is actually hard to manage this. And I think that's another reason when Jonathan Taylor comes back, if he does play either for the Colts or for another team fairly soon, and that's approaching here as we're already going to week 3, I think that Garrett trade will make even more sense because I think he honestly is going to be the 4th receiver. Him and Debo be close, but especially this week with Debo taking on the Giants, I'm sticking with him. As I say, Giants have looked horrendous so far this season. All right, so Kyren Williams was my pickup this week. So is Sam Laporta. And as you can see, I have David Njoku on my bench. I started him last week, started Kyle Pitts week 1. And obviously that was another bad pick by me. Honestly, we see this every year with Kyle Pitts. And that's why I've gone ahead and dropped him, because I do also have David Njoku. But I'm taking a little bit more of a risk on another rookie, Sam Laporta. 10 average points so far for a tight end. Going to have a little bit of a tough matchup with Atlanta this week, but I think Tennessee's defense for Njoku is also good. So I'm taking the risk, plugging him in at tight end. Though obviously Cleveland will have to pass the ball more with Nick Chubb with that terrible injury. I feel so bad for him. And then that was my other waiver wire pickup was Jerome Ford, who obviously has already started good as the running back 2 behind Nick Chubb. Obviously, he was the running back 1 for the remainder of the game after Chubb went out. Picked him up as soon, really, as Chubb got hurt. In my other league, tried to get him. We'll get to that league in a second. He was actually already drafted on draft day because that's a 12-man league. But I was able to pick him up here. But now I don't think I'm going to start him here. I like CMC and Kyle at the running back. And I'm going to take Chris Olave over him for now because, as you all probably saw today, the Browns just re-signed Kareem Hunt back. And I do think he'll be the RB1 over Jerome Ford. We'll see how that situation goes. Obviously, Kareem's going to steal a lot of the pass catching responsibilities that Ford was taking from Chubb. Now those roles might be reversed. We'll see who's going to get those red zone touches. And that could definitely change things up. And then I might have only made I picked up the Chiefs defense. That was my other move. So in both these leagues here, I went defense really late, so I didn't take an elite defense. So each week I kind of just rotate through my defense and I just pick whoever I think is the best matchup and I just rotate it. I got 19 points out of the Bucks defense last week against the Bears. Now I'm swapping it out for the Chiefs to take on the Giants. And I could hold on to the Chiefs, obviously, as they have impressed me very, very much so far. Zach Moss is another enticing waiver wire pickup, but I think I'm good right now. Obviously, you see this headline, is Jerome Ford a bigger waiver pickup than Puka Nacua? That's tough. Obviously, Puka's doing much better so far. And with Kareem Hunt just coming in, I did see this video yesterday. So this was made before the Kareem Hunt edition. So really tough to say there. But as I said, you can see Kyle Pitts on the waiver wire. I dropped him. And I also dropped another kind of constant fantasy disappointment, Najee Harris, 5.3 average points this season. The Steelers' offense just looks absolutely terrible. All the hype about Kenny Pickett has already, he's already being labeled a bust again. And Najee Harris has a tough role in that offense. Plus, Jaylen Warren is an up-and-coming running back for that team as well. But as you can see, I do really like this team. I think I've got a solid start. And then obviously, Jonathan Taylor, if he can get back to what he was 2 years ago, and then obviously going into last year where he was the number 1 projected pick, didn't really live up to the hype. And then obviously, Tua is a great quarterback. So if I don't get Garrett Wilson on the bench, Jordan Addison has been balling out so far. But I am a little worried because he is not getting that many receptions. He's just gotten kind of lucky with touchdowns so far, so I'm keeping him on the bench. And then I did start Joshua Kelly this week, obviously with Eckler out. That was going to be a great play as he was top 5 in rushing yards along with Eckler in week 1. Obviously, we all know he's one of the biggest disappointments, so I'm benching him for now. But then obviously got Jerome Ford on the bench. Anthony Richardson was balling out before the concussion, so if Tua ever gets hurt, I think Anthony Richardson is a great substitution. David Njoku on the bench. And then Jamal Williams, probably my weakest player on the bench, but still led the league in touchdowns last season for a running back. So still a very viable option. I really like this team. I think we've got a lot of places to go. I see ESPN didn't think so on draft day, but we've made a lot of waiver moves. And we'll see what this trade does. I don't think I've made any other trades. My draft day lineup was Tua, Christian McCaffrey, Najee Harris, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Kyle Pitts, Deebo Samuel, Cameron the defense, then Tyler Bass. So really, I don't understand why those 10th team, obviously not as good as the team is right now, especially I really think I have a deep bench as well as a really good starter. And if we go to this matchup, which like I said, we got these injuries to worry about, but projected total 135 points looks really good. And we'll see what he's projected to get once he fixes all his injury stuff. Going to be a tough week, but I think we definitely can get this win if we're projected for 135. Anyways, let's go ahead and move into my other team. Now, this team, I haven't made as many moves or anything, so this one won't take as long to talk about. So my other main league, this is a 12-man snake draft as well. Let's go ahead and look at this league home. As you can see, Draft day, I was 11th out of 12. I'm now up to 3, moved up 8 spots. I'm telling you guys, I go the opposite of ESPN's projections. I take the guys that I believe are going to be the best picks, and obviously, I'm the king of fantasy football. Oh, and this is lovely to see. Travis Etienne, that question mark is gone before he takes on a weak team in the Houston Texans. I absolutely love to see that. As you can see, my only running back on my bench is Dante Foreman, and my flex is Alexander Madison. So obviously, this team is much weaker, and obviously, it is a 12-man league, so the team's going to be weaker. 110 points was able to get me the win last week. You can see I'm 2-0. But here I've sent out 2 trades. Obviously, this is a very low ball offer, trying to ship out Travis Etienne for Tony Pollard. Both of them have done well so far, except for Etienne against the Chiefs. Obviously, I think we know he can be good, although Tank Bigsby is coming up. But obviously, this is just low ball offer, trying to get Tony Pollard. And as you can see, as I said, Jerome Ford was actually drafted in this 12-man league. And with the Christian Watson injury concerns, and with Romeo Doubs and Jaden Reed on that Packers team, I'm trying to send away Christian Watson to try and get Jerome Ford, who's a much-needed running back for me. Obviously, my best player is Bijan Robinson, who's been balling out, and I have Travis Etienne. But that flex spot, probably going to still stick with Alexander Madison this week. But that's a tough one. Obviously, Chargers defense never performs their talent. Another interesting one here, obviously, CeeDee Lamb's always going to produce. Trevor Lawrence kind of let me down this week. But then Tutu Atwell, I think for now, definitely keep him started. As you can see, only 44% rostered. And he's continued to play well as well as Puka Nacua. But I do think with Puka getting more targets and receptions than him, once Cooper Kupp comes back, he will definitely probably be benched. Although I could slide him into the flex. But I don't even know who I'm going to bring in a wide receiver. Obviously, this league, I think I took JT in the 7th round as well. So once he comes back, we'll pop him into that flex spot to pair him with Etienne and Robinson and what will be a very loaded running back room. And then obviously, wide receiver bench is weak. We've got the 2 Pats receivers. Kendrick Bourne obviously had a huge week 1. Probably should actually try and trade him while he's hot, see if we can get a better wide receiver or possibly a flex running back. But then we do have Christian Watson. If the worst comes to worst, he could end up as our wide receiver too. But then obviously, again, QBs are strong. If Anthony Richardson didn't have his concussion, probably would start him over Trevor Lawrence at this point, although Trevor Lawrence is taking on the Texans, Richardson taking on the Ravens. Now, let's see. I think Browns defense versus Tennessee is a good play. But like I said, this one here, I happen to have the Jets defense on my bench just because my bench was really weak. So I just dropped some nobodies. Probably need to drop Dante Foreman and pick up somebody from the waivers, possibly Juju. But let's also try and get a Kendrick Bourne trade here. Obviously, we've got these trades going on, but both those are to receive a running back. Let's see who we could get. Probably somebody who's not performing as well. See, Michael Thomas could be a decent waiver claim here. I don't think Quentin Johnson. So let's see what kind of wide receivers. I'm going to go to the guys who are most likely to respond to a trade. Let's see somebody who's not performing to their expectations, but in the long run should be better than Kendrick Bourne. He's got Marquise Brown and Adam Thielen. Okay, but not exactly what I'm looking for. I could try. Wait, did Cam Akers officially say? He did officially sign with the Vikings. I did not know this. I knew he's or not signed, but get traded. Wait, this is huge. Alexander Madison points definitely going to go down. And I might try and trade for Cam Akers right now because he could be the RB1. Let's do Cam Akers for we'll start with Kendrick Bourne. If he declines that, we'll go to Christian Watson. Man, so Kareem Hunt goes to the Browns and then Cam Akers to the Vikings all in one day. So we got a lot of trades going on now with these 3 pinning moves. Let's go see now because obviously that's another running back addition. Let's see if we can get Kendrick Bourne shipped out for a wide receiver. This guy's got solid wide receiver room. DJ Moore, this might just be our trade, or Drake London, although Drake London is honestly overperforming right now with that 18 points this past week against the Packers. But he's got a solid receiver room, and with Raheem, so I forgot I was trading a receiver for a receiver. You know what? No, I'm gonna try, and I don't think he'll do Drake London. I'm gonna try DJ Moore. I think that's a solid trade. Probably DJ Moore still not gonna be a starter, but we just want to be safe in case Christian Watson and Tutu Atwell aren't gonna be those guys. We'll try and get DJ Moore in here to join the team. So obviously, guys, I've just been going through my team basically for 20 minutes now. Now let's actually look at the NFL schedule, and I'll give you a start sit player for each of these games. Starting with tomorrow, Giants versus 49ers, the guy I'm starting, because, obviously these guys, we can't just say Christian McCaffrey, a guy who actually you should start. Deebo Samuel. Obviously, I'm starting him even in my crowded wide receiver room. If you've got a more running back heavy team, or even if your wide receivers are close with Deebo, start Deebo against the Giants here in San Francisco. And then a sit from this game. Obviously, don't play Saquon Barkley with his injury. I would still start Darren Waller at tight end. Still don't play Brock Purdy as your starting quarterback. And so we'll say, obviously, you want to play that 49ers defense if you have it. It's really the only option is, I guess, sit Daniel Jones. Some of you could have him as your starting quarterback here. Still, sit Daniel Jones. Go to somebody like Jared Goff or Brock Purdy. I know I just said sit Brock Purdy, but if you happen to have Purdy and Daniel Jones on your team, go with Purdy this week. Titans versus Browns. More defensive heavy teams. So I'm going to go with probably with two sits here. Sit DeAndre Hopkins. He has not performed well so far this week. And even though he could definitely be a solid flex option here in the future, for now, do not start him. And then Jerome Ford is a tough one with Cleveland just because we don't know. I'm going to say sit David Njoku. Again, he hasn't lived up to the potential so far, and that Browns pass offense with Deshaun Watson doesn't look too great. So sit David Njoku, another one that I am actually doing, as you saw. Lions versus Falcons. I'm going to say, this might sound crazy, from the Falcons, start Tyler Algier and Drake London. I think that Lions defense is solid and better, but I think the Falcons, Drake London will continue to maybe not get that 18-point performance, but the solid 14, 15 for a flex. So if you have him, start him at flex. And then Tyler Algier, I think, will always get some production. Obviously, had a huge week 1, very much regressed in week 2, but I think start him week 3 at flex against Detroit. And then for Detroit, I'm starting Sam Laporta. Give him the risk. Tight end's a weird position as always, and I would start him this week. We'll do a few more teams. In the Saints versus Packers game, again, probably going to be a little bit more low scoring, but I'm still going to say start Michael Thomas at flex if you're have a more high tier tight end quarterback. Weren't able to get a solid flex. Michael Thomas could do that job this week. And then Packers, I'm going to say start Jordan Love. I think he's not going to throw too many interceptions this year. He's looking much more poised. Start Jordan Love at quarterback. Broncos versus Dolphins. We'll go start. It's tough because I never want you to start a Dolphins running back right now. And obviously, you're always going to start Tyreek, Waddle, Tua, unless Tua happens to be your backup quarterback. We'll go start the Dolphins defense here. Obviously, Russell Wilson is always going to have the interception risk. For the Broncos, we'll go start Jerry Jeudy. I think he is going to continue to improve, and Miami's defense is not great. Last matchup here, we'll go Chargers-Vikings. I'm sitting Joshua Kelly. So sit Josh Kelly. I think Chargers will rely on that pass offense still. Minnesota Vikings defense very weak. And then Vikings, Cam Akers and Alexander Mattison. Sit them both so we can see what their roles are looking like. Cam Akers might need some time in the system. Alexander Mattison coming off that horrible week, so sit both of them. And that's going to go ahead and end the episode. So we'll see you guys